Hi everyone, in this video we are going to walk through how to create an interactive slide resource, some best practices for that resource type, and also what it looks like on the user side. I logged into my regular account and the landing page is my classrooms page, but since we are going to be working on content creation, I'm going to click Library in the upper right hand corner of my screen. On the next page, I'm going to click My Content since I will be building content and I want it in my library. And now I am in my library where I can see all of the different types of content I've created, all the way from courses down to individual resources and questions. So we are going to create a resource called an interactive slide. You can create that inside a course or collection you already have, or you can build it on its own and add it to a collection and course later. So I'm actually going to take that second approach, but before we start, I do just want to show you quickly how you can add an interactive slide to a course and collection that you already have. So you just need to select the course. Once you're in the editor, select the unit, the lesson, and the collection where you want to add the resource. And just like normal, click the green New Resource button and click Interactive. So normally you probably are adding URLs or uploading files. To add an interactive slide, you just need to click Interactive and then Interactive Slide. So that opens up a Create New Resource window. I'm actually going to cancel, but that is how you can go through the steps to create an interactive resource inside a course and collection that are already in your library. So let me just head back out to my library and we will get started with building our own interactive slide. I am going to just build the slide on its own and I'll add it to a course and collection later. To do this, I'm going to click the blue Create button and select Resource since the interactive slide is a type of resource. And here is that Create New Resource window just like we saw, and I'm going to click Interactive Slide. This brings up our interactive slide resource window, and this is where we are going to be doing our content building. Very first step is to add a title. Now, this title is going to be used as metadata for searching within the system, but the title at the level of the course presentation is also the title of the resource that your learners will see. So if you've been following a pattern in how you name your resources, like resource 1 and then the name of the resource, resource 2 and then the name of the resource, follow the same pattern here. I'm just going to create the resource on its own. It's not part of any grouping, so I'm going to call it Potatoes and Their History. So this is what my presentation is about. What my slide is going to be about is potatoes and their history. A little bit farther down, I can see a blank default slide with a white background. Lots of things I can add to the slide. So we're going to change the background, but there's options to add text, links, images, shapes, videos, going to a specific slide in the deck, an audio file, and then lots of different types of questions that you can add to your slides as well. One thing you should note is that any of the questions that you add to an interactive slide are part of a collection and not an assessment. Because they're not part of an assessment, the questions and the students' responses to them will not affect mastery or skyline building. They're just practice questions if you put them in interactive slides. I think there's still a lot of value to that. There's lots of creative ways that you can ask questions and make sure your learners are really comprehending the material, even if they're just practice questions. So I've got all my options at the top here and some extras under these 3 dots. Let's just scroll down a bit more before we start building our slide to see about our settings. So you can adjust your behavior settings. These are the default settings. You're welcome to play around with these and see which work best for you. I'm going to leave them as they are. You can adjust your social settings, enable printing, and then your text overrides and translations, you can also adjust those. I'm just going to leave everything as their default settings, but you are welcome to change whatever you want. So now it's time to actually start building our slide. First thing to do is set the background. To do that, just click on this little paint bucket icon underneath the slide that says Slide Background. And you have the option to either just put this background that you select on this slide or apply it to all of the slides in your slide deck. So I'm going to take that option. You can add an image and select it from your computer, and it gives you recommendations here about resolution. I'm just going to pick a solid color background, so I'm going to select that option. And since our presentation is about potatoes, maybe we'll go with a brownish color. One best practice is to use a darker color background when possible with lighter text. This reduces eye strain on the reader, and it can help with retention and comprehension. So that is the color I have selected, and I'm just going to click that same icon, slide background, one more time, and my background is set. The next thing that I'd like to add to my slide, which is helpful in most cases, is a title for the slide. So to do that, I'm going to add a text box by clicking this text icon. And that brings up a text editor. So I can still see I'm in my general presentation, potatoes and their history, and I'm in a particular text editor. We need to add a title, and in this case, it's just used for metadata for searching and reports. So we'll call this potatoes slide 1. The text is going to be your actual title that appears in the text box on your screen. So let's say we'll just make it a title slide so it'll have the same title as the resource itself. Okay, potatoes and their history. I would like this title to be larger, so I'm going to highlight my text. I've got lots of options in terms of my text. Let's make this as big as we can. And like I mentioned before, since I have that dark background, I'm going to use a lighter font. So I'm just going to go with white. Okay, and then I have some options here in terms of comments, and then the background and whether or not I want the text displayed as a button. Now we'll do this in a little bit so you can see what that looks like, but I'm going to leave that unchecked so my text just displays as it is in this text box here. I'm going to click on the Done button in the upper right-hand corner. Clicking on the Save button in the bottom right-hand corner will bring you back to your editor or your library. It will save the entire interactive slide or slide deck, but just clicking Done will allow you to keep adding elements to your slides. I'm going to click Done. I've got my text box here. You can maneuver it just like you normally would any other text box. So I can see here that my text is a little large. I'd like to edit that and fix it. So what I'm going to do is just click on it, double click. I'm going to highlight my text. Now I can't see it because I made it white, so I'm just going to highlight. And let's drop it down a size. And maybe we'll make it bold. Okay, I'm going to click Done again. There's my adjusted text. And I'm going to drag it and leave it where I want it. Okay, so I've got my title, I've got my background. So the next thing I'm going to do, I think, is add a picture. So to do that, I'm going to click on this image icon, and I'm going to select an image from my computer. So that brings up an image editor. We need a title. Again, this is for metadata for search. So I've added in my title. I'm going to click Add and select the image I want from my computer. And now I'm going to add alternative text. So this is important in case the image doesn't load. And it's also used in text-to-speech readers, so it's important for accessibility. You can add hover text, and again, you have those features at the bottom that you can adjust as you see fit. I'm going to click Done, and here's my picture. So I can adjust it just like I did with the text, drag it around. That looks fine to me. And last thing I'm going to add to this slide before we move on to our next slide is a link. So that is this little icon here. So what I found is a lesson on potatoes called A Tale from the Great Depression from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. It's a PDF lesson by Billy Britt. So I'm going to copy the PDF URL. I'm going to come back to my slide and let's click that link button. We get a similar editor window here. We need to title the link. So let's call it Great Depression and Potatoes. So that's descriptive. And then I'm just going to paste in my URL. And again, you can add comments, change the background, or display this as a button. So let's display our link as a button so we can see what that looks like. If I left it as is, the text of the link would be visible to the user. I'm going to have it displayed as a button, and I'll have that button be large. You can change it to small. And then I'm going to click Done. And there's my little link button. Let's just plop it right here. And I think I'm all set with this particular slide. One of the major benefits of this interactive slide resource type is that you can build a little mini slide deck. All of the resources that are closely related together that you've built are in the same exact slide deck. The learner doesn't have to leave the resource and go to the next one by clicking next to stay within the deck. They can just flip between the slides. And I think that's really useful, especially when you've created content and you want to keep it close together. To add a new slide, you can either click Add New Slide, and it'll just give you a blank, or Clone Slide, and it will give you a copy of this first slide. So I'm going to click Add New Slide, and it's brown. Remember, I set the background as the template for all my slides. And again, let's add a title, so text box here. Let's do Potato Slide 2. I will make the text the title of this slide called Mashed Potatoes. And I've got my features and settings to edit if I want. I am going to change the size of my font here. I'll make it bold, and I will make it white again because I have that dark background. So I'm going to click Done. I've got my title. Let's just adjust it briefly. There we go. And if I scroll down here, I can see that I'm on slide 2 of 2. So you can add as many slides as you like. And I'll show you what it looks like on the user side, but they can truly just flip through from slide to slide without going into another resource. So they can see the first slide and click to the next and so on. So on this mashed potato slide, what I'm going to do is add a video. So there is a video on YouTube posted by Tasty about mashed potatoes. So I'm going to copy that URL. I'm going to click on the video link here. It looks like a little film reel. I need to give a title for metadata again, so I'm just going to say mashed potatoes. I'm going to click this plus, and I can either upload a video file or just paste it in from YouTube. Click insert, otherwise it won't upload or paste. I can see it there. And now there's more settings here that you can adjust when you've added a video. So I can have this fit to use all available space to show controls. Those are on by default. You can adjust playback. And you can also add a video track for accessibility. I'm going to leave all of that as is for now, and I'm going to click Done. So here is my video. I'm going to adjust it slightly, and there we go. So I think this is enough for me for now for my slide deck, but again, I could just keep adding slides and build on this interactive slide resource. Because I'm done working on the entire resource, I'm going to click this green Save button, and that'll bring me back out to my library. If I were working inside a course and a collection, it would just bring me back out to the collection. Because I just created a resource on its own, outside of the context of a course, that interactive resource I created is now in my resources. So here it is, potatoes and their history. I can click the pencil icon here to edit it as much as I want. Let's take a quick preview to see what this would look like for students. This view is slightly modified. Your learners will have a study player on the left-hand side to help them navigate, and all of this will fit on the screen, so they do not need to scroll at all to view the entire interactive slide resource. Here's my text, my image. I can click on my link, and it'll give me the title that I put in, and I can click on it to go to the lesson I linked. To move to the next slide, I just click the little toggle at the bottom, and there I am on my next slide, and I can click play just to play this like a regular video. So there are lots and lots of opportunities for creativity with this interactive slide resource. Building multiple slides in a slide deck together keeps resources closely sequenced, so students and learners don't have to go from one resource to the next. They can just navigate within a given slide deck, and all of the resources you've built in that slide deck remain together as a single resource.